Hello, I'm Matthew McKibbin. Welcome to Bedtime Stories. Thank you for enjoying my previous bedtime story video. I hope all of you had sweet dreams and great sleep. So today, I'm back with another bedtime story video, and I'm going to read to you guys more stories of Thomas the Tank Engine. But this time, and for today, I'm continuing with this big storybook called Thomas's Treasury Collection. And our first story is the story of Thomas the Tank Engine. This is a story about Thomas the Tank Engine, who worked with his engine friends on Sir Topham Hatt's railway on the island of Sodor. Thomas the Tank Engine was a funny little engine who helped the big engines by pulling their coaches to and from the big station. But what Thomas really wanted was his very own branch line. That way he would be a really useful engine. Sometimes Thomas likes to play tricks on the other engines. One day, when Gordon, the big, strong engine, was very tired from pulling the heavy express train, Thomas came up beside him and whistled loudly. Beep, beep! Wake up, lazy bones! That surprised Gordon. He decided to teach Thomas a little lesson. The next morning, Thomas would not wake up. It was nearly time for Gordon's express to leave, and Thomas didn't have his coaches ready. Yawn, said Thomas, getting started at last. Hurry up, Thomas, said Gordon sternly. Thomas's job was to push Gordon's train to help him start. As he moved out of the station, he started to go faster and faster. Faster and faster and faster and faster Gordon went. It was way too fast for Thomas. That morning was Gordon's chance to teach Thomas a lesson. Hurry, 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 laughed Gordon. Thomas was going faster than he had ever gone before. My wheels will wear out, he thought. Beep, beep, stop, stop, whistled Thomas. At last they stopped at a station. Well, Thomas, chuckled Gordon, now you know how it feels to be tricked. Puff, puff, panted tired Thomas. He was too out of breath to say anything. The silliness got him into trouble. Maybe he would never get his own branch line now. The next day, Thomas saw some strange-looking trucks in the yard. That's the breakdown train, said his driver. It helps out when there's an accident. Just then, James, the splendid red engine, came through the yard crying. His trucks were pushing him too fast, and his brake blocks were on fire. Help! Help! Soon, James disappeared. A man came running. James is off the line. We need the breakdown train. Quickly, he shouted. Thomas was hooked onto the breakdown train, and off he went as fast as he could. Whirr went his wheels along the track. I have to help James, he said. They found James in a field with the trucks piled in a heap behind him. His driver and firemen were checking that he was all right. It wasn't your fault, James, his driver said. It was those troublesome trucks. James needed help. Thomas pushed the breakdown train alongside James. Then he pulled some trucks out of the way. He was soon back to pick up the rest. Oh no, they groaned. Serves you right, puffed Thomas. He worked hard all afternoon. Thomas pulled James back to the shed, where Sir Topham Hatt was waiting. Well, Thomas, he said, you have shown that you're a really useful engine. I'm so happy with you that I'm going to give you your own branch line. Oh, thank you, sir, said Thomas happily. Now, Thomas is happy as can be, and he chugs and puffs proudly along his own branch line from morning to night. Gordon is always in a hurry, but whenever he sees Thomas, he remembers to say, hurry, hurry, and silly little Thomas always whistles, beep, beep, lazy bones. Thomas and the Robot. This is a story about Thomas the Tank Engine and some machines that came to visit. It was a busy day on Sodor. A technology fair was taking place at Alfstead's castle. Inventors from all over the world were bringing marvelous machines to the fair. Thomas had so much to do. All aboard, Thomas sang out. He took passengers up to Alfstead Castle and pulled some very important inventions. Rocket booster coming through, puffed Thomas. He even guided a car plane invention to the fair. Clickety clack, clickety clack. When the fair finally opened, there were inventions everywhere. A huge robot called Meadow Man stomped past Thomas. Click, click, click. Welcome to the future, said Sir Topham Hatt. Thomas was excited, but he felt worried. With all these new inventions, would the steam team be part of the future too? Thomas was determined to show Sir Topham Hatt how useful he could be, just as useful as any robot. All day long he chugged on, faster than he ever gone before. Puff, 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 panted poor Thomas. At the next station, the guard was waiting on the platform. Watch out on the tracks today, Thomas. There's a silver machine on the rails, warned the guard. It's the fastest thing on Sodor, the guard said. It's probably another robot, Thomas sighed. When Thomas rolled in at Alstead Castle, the silver machine was by the platform. It wasn't a robot at all. It was a high-speed train from Japan, the fastest in the world. "I'm Kenji," said the train. "You must be Thomas." Thomas loved meeting new friends, but he still felt worried. With robots and faster trains, would Sertapa have one to replace him? "Thomas, look!" giggled Kenji. A flying car buzzed right over Thomas. Buzz, buzz. Farther down the platform, Thomas saw two men carrying the box of plans. As the men started to climb into Kenji's cab, Sertapa had let out a shout. "Thieves!" he cried. "Those men have stolen the blueprints for the flying car." "Thomas, help!" Kenji shouted, but it was too late. The thieves shot off down the track in Kenji. Thomas knew he could never catch up with the fastest train in the world by himself, but he had an idea, and he needed the help of the machines. Thomas hooked up to the rocket booster and must catch up, Thomas puffed. Thomas unhooked from the rocket truck and overtook Kenji, and suddenly Thomas was in front of Kenji. Whoosh! The rocket roared into life and pushed Thomas faster, faster, and faster. Whir, whir, whir! Sparks fizzed from Thomas's wheels. The signal person changed the points. Screech! Kenji ground to a stop. Quick as a flash, the thieves escaped with the plans. "They got away!" puffed Thomas. Hang on, what's that noise?" Click, click, click. It was Metal Man and Sir Topham Hatt. The giant robot was holding the thieves in the air. "Thomas and the robot saved the day," said Kenji. "The machines are much stronger and faster than me," said Thomas. "Maybe they are the future of Sodor." "Oh no, I never replace my engines," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Steam engines are the greatest invention of all time," he added. Thomas blushed from boiler to buffer. He didn't need to worry about robots or faster trains. Sodor would always need the steam team, but Thomas had to admit robots could be really useful too. Beep, beep. Thomas and the Dinosaurs. This is a story about Thomas the Tank Engine and the time he came face to face with a dinosaur. Thomas the Tank Engine liked to brag that he wasn't scared of anything. "Nothing scares me," he peeped to his coaches Annie and Clarabelle. They just smiled. They were used to Thomas showing off. James was taking some passengers to the docks. "Beep, beep," to Thomas as he sped past. "Made you jump," laughed Thomas as he disappeared into the distance. James was not happy. But Thomas was having too much fun. I'm going to scare Percy, he laughed to himself when he saw Percy resting in the sheds. Beep, beep! Percy was jointed, wide awake. He was not happy. That evening, Sir Topham Hatt had an important job for Thomas. He needed him to work through the night, delivering supplies to the workmen. The sun had set, and as the stars came out, the shadows darkened. Thomas had never been out so late before, and he'd never seen Sodor looking so dark before. As he arrived at the docks, he saw the huge shadow of Cranky the crane looming over him. It scared him a little bit, but then he saw something even more terrifying. Out at sea, a horned creature seemed to be attacking a ship. Thomas didn't wait to see what happened next. Help! Help! He puffed as he steamed back to the engine sheds. But James and Percy wouldn't listen to Thomas. You're just trying to scare us again, they cried. Thomas didn't sleep well that night. The next night, it was James who was sent out to make deliveries. As he went past the docks, he caught sight of a gigantic mouth full of sharp teeth. Help! Help! He puffed as he sped away from the monster as fast as he could. Percy had heard Thomas and James's tales of monsters, but he didn't believe them. They're just trying to scare me, he said to himself bravely, as he set out the next evening to deliver the night mail. But as he got close to the docks, a huge shadow fell across the tracks. What Percy saw took all his puff away, but he didn't steam off. Instead, he looked again. The gigantic creature wasn't moving at all. It wasn't breathing. It wasn't real. Percy let out a relieved puff of steam and went on his way. He never felt so big and brave before. The next morning, Sir Topham Hatt went to speak to the engines. I've heard that some of you have had a scare, he smiled. Thomas and James blushed from buffer to bumper. The creatures you've seen in the night aren't anything to be scared of, he explained. They're models for the new dinosaur park. The engines were excited to hear about the park. Thomas, Percy, and James, I'd like you to deliver the dinosaurs, announced Sir Topham Hatt. If you're not too scared, that is. The engines worked hard all day. Then the fierce Tyrannosaurus, and finally, the long-tailed Doblectus arrived. First the horned Triceratops, they are now in the dinosaur park. The next day, the dinosaur park was open to the public. Thomas was put in charge of taking the very first visitors to see the dinosaurs. The children squealed and shouted with terrified excitement. "There's nothing to be scared of," Thomas reassured them. Percy overheard Thomas and chuckled to himself. Thomas Goes Crash. This is the story about the time Thomas the Tank Engine thought he could manage without his driver. He set off by himself one morning and quickly rolled into trouble. Thomas the Tank Engine had worked on Sir Topham Hatt's railway for many years. He had 2 carriages, Annie and Clarabelle, and his very own branch line. Thomas was a really useful engine. One day in Sodor, Thomas was busy at work. He stopped at Wellward Station in just the right place. "You could almost manage without me, Thomas," laughed his driver. Thomas felt proud. He didn't know that his driver was only joking. "I don't need a driver anymore," Thomas boasted in the sheds that night. "Don't be silly," peeped Percy. "I never go anywhere without my driver," said Toby. "I'd be too afraid." "Well, I'm not scared," said Thomas. "You'll see." The next morning, Thomas woke up early. "I'll show those silly steamies," he smiled. "My driver says I don't need him. I'll go out by myself. Then I'll stop and whistle to wake them up." Thomas rolled forward, feeling very smart, but really he was only moving because someone had forgotten to put on the brakes. Thomas tried to whistle, but he couldn't. He tried to stop, but he couldn't. He just kept rolling along. Straight ahead was the station master's house. The station master was inside, about to have breakfast. "Cinders and ashes!" cried Thomas, and he shut his eyes. The house rocked, glass smashed, and plaster and dust flew everywhere. The station master was furious. His wife was upset too. "Look at our breakfast," she said. "Now we will have to make some more." Workmen came to prop up the house with strong poles. Then they laid rails through the garden. Thomas felt terrible. He didn't say a word the whole time. Soon Donald and Douglas arrived. "Don't worry, Thomas. We'll get you back on the rails," they called. Puffing hard, they hauled Thomas to safety. Thomas's buffers were badly bent, and bits of fence were stuck to them. The twins laughed as they steamed away. Thomas was in trouble. Sir Topham Hatt came to see him. "You've caused a lot of trouble," he boomed. "I'm sorry, sir," said Thomas quietly. "You must go to the steamworks to be repaired," Sir Topham Hatt went on. "Yes, sir," Thomas sighed. "Meanwhile, Diesel will do your work," Sir Topham Hatt told Thomas. "The Diesel, sir?" Thomas spluttered. Diesels stay in their sheds until they are needed, Sir Topper had explained. They never roll off to breakfast in station masters' houses. Thomas set off to the steamworks, a Weiser engine. He had learned 2 things: never leave the sheds without his driver, and that breakfast was not for engine. Well, what'd you think of that? It seemed like that Thomas's plan without a driver didn't go so well as he expected. And I could tell that he was very unhappy that he got crashed into the house during breakfast time. I'm sure that in the future that Thomas would have better experience with his driver around. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's bedtime story video. And for what Shelley Duvall said, when you write stories, you can make believe anything. And when you dream, you can make believe anything too. So I hope you all have sweet dreams and hope to see you next time.